Hi, welcome back to YAHUSHA's Glory Channel. I said before that I would do a final conclusion, a study of the books of CHANOK, YAHUSHA, YAHUAH'S, and it took me a couple of years to read through them all, and I read a bunch of the books, well, all of the books a few times. And then I went through a bunch of the books in the Old Testament, the Torah. So I read all those books a few times, and I took as many notes as I could, and that way it kind of helps you understand what's going on in that book. So if you're interested, go ahead and stay tuned, and I will run through it with you. So I pulled out everything I could see that YAHUA says for us to do. I got a bunch of definitions. I've got some explanations about how to do what YAHUA is telling us to do. And I will describe to you what you can do to worship YAHUA correctly if you choose to worship him. And also in the video I watched the moon phases and jotted down notes and kept a good record of what happens with the moon from day to day and from month to month all the way through the year. And then I started into the second year, and I do see that the moon dates are all correctly repeating themselves on the first day of the month. So I'm going to be able to accurately show you how many days there are per month and how to view which moon is the new moon, how to understand that and identify it. And you'll be able to start your appointed times on the correct day if you listen and take really good notes. And I'll try to go slow, so I'm trying not to make it too difficult. And there might be some other information in here too, but there's quite a bit, so let's get started. So we're starting with some definitions, and this is in the books of CHANOK, YAHUAH'S, and YAHUSHA. So there's a word you guys remember a long time ago out of the book, you'll see it all the time, called Elohim. And that's simply like a deity in the sky, and people call it God, but we don't call him that because we found out that that's like an offshoot of the name GAD, which is the name of somebody whose name we don't mention. But so we got the creator in the heavens, that's what that is, and that his name is YAHUA. Of course, he created the heavens and all that's in the heavens. He created the earth and all that is in it. Again, YAHUA is his name. Okay, so you know what Elohim means. Then we have the word covet. You've heard of that, covet. Don't covet somebody's stuff. Well, that means to want something that is not yours. And some people do some bad stuff to get to people. They do bad stuff to people to get what is not theirs. So, and a lot of people are doing it nowadays, and YAHUA doesn't like it. And there is a commandment about not doing that. So, and then another term that we have in this book over and over is called evening to evening. He talks about doing your appointed days, and he talks about starting your Shabbats, and he talks about when the day begins and this and that, and it's always referred to as evening to evening. And how do you know what evening to evening is? Well, it's in the morning there. It's not the beginning of the day anymore. In YAHUA's world, since he created the earth out of darkness and said, let there be light, so he put the beginning of the day when it's dark. And so the number count of each day begins in the dark and goes overnight into the morning and afternoon, and it ends when the next evening comes. And so you got evening to evening. That's an actual day on this CHANOK calendar. So it's not late at night, like midnight, but it's what you call evening. I would say just after sunset would be okay. Think of that. If you think after sunset, you'll be okay. And this is when each new day begins. So when you start your Shabbat, or an appointed time you're going to start, then it begins at evening. So just after sunset is a really good time to start it. Probably, like in the winter time, it's a little earlier than in the summertime because the sun's out a little later. The sun is out later in the summer. So in the winter, it's a little earlier. Like right now, it's the middle of winter, and we're probably doing it right around 5:45 p.m. That's about your Shabbat evening starting if you're doing a Shabbat. In the summer, you might not start it till 9 p.m. So there's a leeway there. It just gets a little earlier and earlier, depending on when it gets colder. It gets a little later and later, depending on if it gets darker. I'll probably talk more about that. Now, he talks about following the laws, the statutes, and the commandments. Everybody's heard of the 10 commandments. There's 10 of them. We're going to go over those. I wrote them down, and I'll read them to you. You must do all of these, and they can be found in the books of the first 5, what they call the Pentateuch, which I don't call it that, but it is what they call it in some places. It's 5. It's the number 5. It's Genesis, Exodus, the book of Leviticus, the book of Numbers, and the book of Deuteronomy. And there are hundreds of laws. So you want to sit and read those with your family. And I want you to read every day the book, the Sefer or the Torah, whatever you have, the Old and New Testament, the KJV, whatever you got. Read that every day to your family. Start at the beginning of Genesis. Read it, take a pencil and underline, and keep track. And the next day, go back and do it for 10 minutes with your family. And just read 10 minutes a day until you get through all that. And when you get to a law or a statute or a commandment where he says, tell the children, like he's telling Moshe, tell the children that Yahuwah says, this is a statute for all your generations and all your houses, then he's telling you to do that forever. So you need to jot that down and write those laws down as you see them. And every night you get done with that, pretty soon you guys would have went through the whole Bible or the whole Sefer, whatever you want to call it. And you've got all your laws wrote down, and you guys are talking and you're figuring them out. And it becomes a real good way to get your family working together and living in Yahuwah, living unto Yahuwah, which is to be doing things that he likes. He's got the greatest ideas of how to live and get along and have a happy home. So now, speaking of and I misspelled this, the commandments, here are the first 10. Okay, so forget that little misspell up there, but the commandments. Okay, you must do these. They're the 10 that Moshe brought down off the mount. If you remember, on the big stones, there's 10 of them. Well, we've all heard of it. It's in Exodus chapter 20. So the book of Exodus chapter 20, if you want to read along, starts out like this. He says, and Yahuwah spoke and said, I am Yahuwah, which have brought you out of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage. Now, Mitzrayim is any country you are enslaved in. And he's bringing you out of the house of bondage, so he wants you to know who he is. So he introduces himself first, and then after that, he speaks the commandments and says this, you shall have no other Elohim before me. So he is the only one in the sky, the only one with power, and he's the only one he wants you to worship. Him alone. He creates everything. He's in charge of the food, everything. The second commandment is, you shall not make unto you any graven image. Now, a graven image, that's an interesting thing. I'm going to explain to that what a graven image is to you later. And you'll want to stay tuned for that. It's very interesting. I found that separated out in Jasher, the book of Jasher. Yaakov, who is the third generation from Avraham. You have Avraham and then his son Isaac and then his son Yaakov. Well, Yaakov married a woman named Leah, and he married another woman, her sister, named Rachel. Well, Rachel had a dad, and she did something to his graven images, and she explains that she hid them because he was using them. So if you stay tuned, I'll show you exactly what he was doing and exactly where those images came from and what they are and how you can recognize what a graven image is. But I'll be back with that in a minute. So the commandment is, thou shalt not make any graven image, or you shall not. It says, or any likeness of anything that is in the heavens above. So no drawings of angels or host of heaven, or anything that is in the earth beneath, no likeness, or anything that is in the water under the earth. So you're not supposed to do artwork of any kind, drawing things, making sculptures, anything like that. It says, you shall not bow down yourself to them, nor serve them. It says, for I, Yahuwah, am a jealous El. Now listen to what he does. Visiting the iniquity, or the sin, of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. And how do you hate Yahuwah? You don't do what he says. That's hating him. Well, but he says, and showing mercy unto the thousands of them that love me and guard my commandments. Now, that's not many. Thousands love Yahuwah, and he's the one that makes all the food and clean water. So let's be part of those thousands. Now, on number 3 here, the third commandment, you shall not take the name of Yahuwah in vain. For Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that takes his name in vain. That's somebody who swears by Yahuwah and they don't have a clean heart when they're doing it. Like maybe they're doing it with a lie in their heart. Now, the fourth one says, remember the day of the Shabbat. What is the Shabbat? Well, there's a definition we have this time. I'll tell you, here's the definition right there written in the commandment. Remember the day of the Shabbat. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is the Shabbat of Yahuwah. In it you shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger that is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahuwah made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore Yahuwah blessed the day of Shabbat. As I was reading through the Torah, I found that he says the Shabbat is more sacred to him than any of the appointed times. And there are some important appointed times. And we'll go over all of those. I forgot to mention, we're going to go over all the appointed times. And then at the end, I'm going to show you what a typical year looks like, worshiping Yahuwah and following those dates. And they're all broken down and they're verifiable by the moons. And I'll show you how many days there are and when the new moon comes and how to look at it and how to recognize the new moon. I'll show you how to do it all. Well, the 5th commandment, back to it, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which Yahuwah gives you. How do you honor your father and your mother? You do Yahuwah's will. You live in his statutes, commandments, and his laws. That's going to honor your family. You're honoring your name. The next one, you shall not kill. Plain and simple. You're not supposed to kill. He has a part that I read in the Torah. He says, even when Yaakov and them came across and they were coming out of slavery and out of the wilderness and they went to their land and they cleared out all those people from those countries that they went into, those big cities, it's a bunch of stories about warfare. War, over and over. Well, then at the very end there's a line that says, he's telling them, he says, remember, it wasn't your bow or your spear that delivered you these lands and got those people out of there, but Yahuwah is the one who fought for you. It was his Ruach. And so another thing he says is, you have to be aware that they, whoever they is, have done violence to the Torah. That means they've written in violence where it doesn't belong. They've ripped it up. They've cut and shred that thing up. You're not supposed to kill. Only Yahuwah will kill to protect you, because he'll guard you as the apple of his eye if you're following him and you're obeying him. Now, the next one, you shall not break wedlock. For those of us that are married, we know what breaking wedlock means. It means doing adultery. Well, it also means another thing. As a follower of Yahuwah, you are his bride. He does not want you worshiping another deity. He wants you to watch very carefully and not do any of the appointed times or celebrations of the other people, which is anyone who doesn't worship Yahuwah. And if you want to know who the other people are, you try telling them you're worshiping Yahuwah, and you'll find out who the other people are. Because there's a bunch of them. There's only thousands that love Yahuwah. He's the only one with power. He's the king of the earth and the heavens. He's the one that created us. And it's a very small number of people who are following him. The next one, which is rampant in the earth, it's just out of control. You shall not steal. If you're a thief, don't do it. He has real problems coming for the thieves of the earth. The next one, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. That means you don't go and tell a story and get somebody in trouble, get their kids taken away or get their house taken or get them thrown off their job or off their land or do something to hurt them. You're bearing false witness. You're lying. He's got a real problem with people like that. And he's going to do something really bad to them. So don't be one of them. The next one is, and the 10th actually, it says, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. Remember, covet is want something that is not yours. You shall not covet your neighbor's woman. And that goes for men too. Don't covet their man. Nor his manservant, nor his maidservant. You can't covet his ox or his ass, nor anything that is your neighbor's. So if your neighbor has something, you take it out of your heart if you feel like you want it, because it will cause you to sin, and that is a sin unto death, and you don't want that. Now, we go to these 10 that Moshe brought down, these 10 commandments that Moshe brought down from the mount, from Yahuwah. These are intended to get the people started in living correctly, just to get you started. There are many other laws that are more specific to living correctly, and these laws pertain to all sorts of subjects like business, how to do business ethically. That's why when you're reading the first 5 books, write down those laws and organize them based on if they have to do with different subjects. There's business laws in there. There's how to judge things for judges. There's romance laws, like what's okay between a man and a woman. There's laws about how to clean your body before you come before Yahuwah, before you enter toward the tabernacle, or before you enter before your altar. And I'm even going to show you how to make a proper altar that Yahuwah will accept. As he won't accept every altar. Well, there's a laws there that tells you how to cleanse your body correctly after your body has any issues, like you have a rash or boils or pimples, or if after you and your good lady wife are together, or after you have a baby, or if a woman goes through her monthly cycle. There's a way to cleanse your body correctly after there's an issue from your body. There are ways. Those are laws about that. You can find those and write them right down. There are ways written basically to deal with everyday problems between the people. Any problems you have between people, he'll show you how to behave with each other. Now, shows you basically how to be a decent person. It's a guide for that. He really wants you to do these things all the time, so you want to learn them. That's what it's called, the laws, statutes, and commandments. You'll find them. It's in the first 5 books of your KJV or your Torah. You'll find them, or your Sefer. Write down everything you see as a note. When you see him say to Moshe or any of the prophets, when he says, go into this town and tell the people thus, or when he says, you go tell the people something, when he says this, write those words down, because that's the city you live in. He wants you to hear it. So you better write that down. He means it right now. That's not from 1,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago. He means today. You read that. He's talking to you. Well, as we move along, so write that down when you see him talk to the people. He's talking to you. Appointed times. What are appointed times? Well, they're similar to celebration days on your calendar that you have in your country of origin. But the only problem is appointed times is what he calls them. And there are only some that Father in heaven accepts. He rejects all the rest of them. So they're the only days in which you may even acknowledge a celebration of any sort. Well, when he has an appointed time, it always has to do with helping the poor and exalting him for all the great things that he has done for us in creating us. That's really all he does. You spend time exalting his name just by giving an offering to the poor. That's how simple it is to observe his appointed times. You just got to know when to do it, when that new moon comes or whatever day it calls for, and I'll show you that whole calendar here in a minute. You're not allowed to do anything that exalts yourself or another man in any way ever. So if you got a special day built up just for a special person, that's forbidden to Yahuwah. You exalt him alone, and that's just the way it is. Now, it's all to glorify Yahuwah. And why not? He gives you fresh water. He gives you food. He's going to release you from your captivity, my friend. Now, moon portions. What about these appointed times? Well, how do you know when to do anything? Well, I'm going to show you how the moon goes from nothing, or where you can't see it at all. Like when the sky's black and you're like, where's the moon at? Well, I'll show you how it goes from there to the new moon. When it gets to the new moon, by the way, this is the first day of every single month. when you see that new moon, that's your first day. And there are 12 months. So every time you got a moon, you'll have the first day of the first month, and then you'll have the first day of the second month. That's your new moon. And it'll go through 29 or 30 days, whatever the number is that I got wrote down. Then you'll have the first day of the third month, and it'll go first day of the fourth month, all the way through to the first day of the 12th month, and then you start over again on the first day of the first month. And I watched it, and I'm on my second year, and it's doubling up, and it's repeating, and it's a perfect work, and it never changes. I read in there that in CHANOK, he said if you watch that moon, if you sit out and you watch it and you take notes and you're diligent with it, you make sure you watch, that moon will repeat itself, and you'll be able to count the number of days. You'll be able to see how many days there are in a year. You'll be able to see when the moon starts. He says because people are confused, they don't do the appointed times at the right time. Well, that's not good for YAHUA. He wants you to know how to read that moon, and so that you can start your appointed times correctly and on time. There are appointed times that he says, if you don't do a particular one in that self-same day, you will die. It's called the atonement. We'll talk about that in a minute. You don't want to miss these moons. You got to figure out how to count that moon. I'm going to show you how. Take some notes. Now, when the moon shows up as a new moon, it's dark, you're sitting there, you're like, when's that new moon going to pop up? Well, it looks like a little crescent. It's bent around to the right, so the curvy part is on the right side, and it looks like a little thin crescent. Now you can only see it, this is interesting now, on the new moon. You'll only see it for 30 minutes, and it'll be in the part of the sky that the sun sets in, and it disappears really quickly, so you got to watch for it. And then the second night, the second day of that month, it'll do it again. It'll just pop up suddenly at sunset, and you watch for it, and you'll see it, and it won't stay very long, and it'll disappear and go down. Further on throughout the month, third day, fourth day, fifth day of the month, it'll come a little bit farther in the sky toward this side of the sky where the sun comes up. It'll work its way back toward the dawn area of the sky. Okay, so that's where you find it. When the sun sets, keep watching for that moon. It'll pop up right there where the sun set. But it only stays for 30 minutes on the new moon. You got to be watching, or you will miss it. When you see my calendar count of how many days in the month there are, write them down, because when there's a cloudy day on the first day of the month, as I found out, it's about impossible to find that new moon. If there's any clouds in the sky, you will miss it. But if you watch those counts and you count those days, you will not miss it. You'll be able to announce the first day of each month without seeing the moon physically, because you'll know how many days to count. So I'll show you how to do that. You got to watch real close. Now, of course, the second day of the month, you got that little crescent for a short period. Now, after 7 days, every day it adds another little portion of light, so it gets a little fatter on the right side. But after 7 days, it'll be a half moon with the right side fattened in with white and bright light, and a middle line down the middle, real straight. That's your 7-day mark. That's a half moon. 7 portions of light. 7 days later, you'll have 14 portions of light. The moon will be full right around the middle of the month. You'll see it. And then 7 days after that, or toward the 21st of the month, you'll see another half moon, because the light will come out of that full moon. It fills in from right to left. But then as the 14th rolls into the 15th and the 16th, a little portion of light will disappear from the right side, and more light will disappear from the right side a little at a time, to where it'll start looking littler and littler on the right side, and the left side will still be full of white light, real bright and round. But that right side will diminish and get littler and littler until there's a straight line right down the middle around the 3rd week, the 21st day. So it's 7 portions every half moon. 7 is a half moon, 14 days is a full moon, 21 would be another half moon, but this time on the 21st day of each month, that half moon would be round on the left side with a straight line down the middle. And from then it just diminishes over the next week, sometimes just disappears real quick altogether, but you lose a portion of light every day. But you'll know once it gets to that half moon, you're about 7 days to 9 days to be having to get out there and watch for that new moon, because it's coming. So when that 7 days is up and you hit that 28th day, you better watch. You got to watch for the next few days and make sure you see it. But I'll show you exactly what day to look. I had to guess and keep looking day after day after day, but I'm going to make it easy on you if you'll write it down. Now, to clarify it, light comes in from the right side. It fills in itself every day, one portion of light. And then every day it gets a little bit bigger on the right side till the middle has a line down it and the whole right side's filled in. That's 7 days. And then after 14 days, it keeps filling into the left side a little bit more from that center line. It gets a little wider and wider till that whole circle's filled in on around the 14th day there. And then the light starts to disappear from the right side on the 15th day through the 21st day, roughly. And it'll look like a left side full moon. And then toward the end of the month, it'll disappear from that center and turn into a crescent on the left side. And then if that crescent's on the left side, you better know that month is about over. You better start watching for that moon. It's coming up. You got to announce the first day of the month and blow that shofar. Now, here we go. And you know when that first day comes up, that moon pops up for only 30 minutes at the sunset sky. And it's fast. And you won't see it. You better get out there and walk the street and look way up in the sky. If you got trees, you get out in the open and look. When you see it, you blow that shofar and announce the first day of whatever month you're on. Announce that first day. That's what YAHUA tells you to do. Okay. Now, at the new moon each month, you blow the shofar to announce the beginning of the month. Well, how do you blow a shofar? What is a shofar? Well, a shofar is a ram's horn. I bought a cheap one for like 12 bucks. They work pretty good. Anyway, dog keeps trying to chew it. They like horns. I keep trying to keep it away from them, and I've been successful so far. Now, what you want to do, when you go to blow that shofar, you go outside where you're going to blow it, in your yard or wherever you can face the sky where he's at, which he'll be where the sun cuts across the sky during the day. That side of the sky, that's where his throne is. So wherever the sun's cutting across, because I read in the Sefer that, and when the end of the day comes, that sun doubles back around and goes across the face of heaven again, back where it came from. It goes right back where it came from. It goes back in a gate and then pops back out the next morning. So what you want to do is look in that part of the sky where you typically see the sun cutting across. That's where the throne is. You can look on your compass too. It should be pointing north. Now there's something key. Write that down. Now, grab the shofar, put it in your pocket or whatever, go out there, announce to Father in respectful tone that you're going to announce the first day of the month. You get down on your hands and knees, you put your head to the ground, your forehead. You worship YAHUA and his son YAHUSHA, and you tell him you're going to blow the shofar. See it as an act of righteousness. Stand up, put the shofar against your mouth, give it a blast that lasts about 7 seconds. That's a good, powerful blast. And then you're done. And what happens is the neighbors who are blowing the shofar too, because the entire earth is supposed to be doing it, that'll announce to the people in the field, hey, it's the first day of the month, blow your shofar. And that word gets around the earth, and that's what he wants. He wants everyone on earth to do the same thing. But if nobody's doing it, you're going to have to be the one to do it. Now, fast of the first day of the month. Every time you blow that shofar, it's the first day of the month. He calls for a fast every day of the first month. So first day of the first month, you fast. First day of the second month, automatic fast. Every month for 12 months. Always the first day. You'll start that fast when you blow that shofar at evening, because your day starts then. That's the beginning of your first day of the month, when you blow that shofar at evening. You'll fast that night. You'll go to bed. You can drink water. You sleep. You wake up. You go all day. And then whatever hour it is you blew that shofar, like in the summer, it could be 9 p.m. In the winter, it could be 5 p.m. Whatever hour you blew the shofar, 24 hours later is the proper time to break that fast, and you may go ahead and eat your supper. When you do the fast, you have to announce that you're doing it for YAHUA, and you have to give an alm or a tithing or a offering to the food bank. You have to feed the poor. Usually, you'll take how much you make per year after taxes. You find that sum, what comes up to 10%, and you figure out how many times you're going to have to offer that year, and you divide it by 10. I mean, rather, you divide, you take the 10% amount of the total you're able to give out of your 10%, sorry, and then you divide that 10% by how many times you're going to have to give for appointed times, because you have to give for them too, and for fast days and everything. So if you make $10,000 a year, for instance, and you have $1,000 is 10%. If you clear 10 grand, then you'll take $1,000, and that's what you will give. That's your increase that you give to Yahuwah every year. It's 10%. And the way you'll do it, you may have 30 or 40 times that you have to give a tithe or an offering, or an alms as they call it, when you're doing these fast days and these special events, these appointed times. So that $1,000 divided by 40, just do the math. I mean, it can end up being $25 each time. But that's good for Yahuwah. Now, if you make $100,000, then it'd be $10,000 divided by all that. But it's after taxes. It's your actual take-home pay. If you don't have any money after you pay your rent, then what you want to do is every month, and every time you have to give a donation, you talk it over with Yahuwah and you tell him, Father, I don't have any money. I'm going to do a good job for somebody, a good deed. So what I want you to do is go find a single widow who needs help, or an orphan you know in the neighborhood who needs something, or an old man who needs help, or one of your neighbors that needs help, and you go mow their grass, or you go shovel their snow, or you just do something, some charity work for somebody. You give them some free labor. That's a donation, believe it or not. That's a good tithe. That's your able body helping somebody who's not able. If you're not able to do that, then Father has something called give as you are able. If you can't do either one of those things, and you're being honest with him, he knows it. He says, give as you are able. If you are not able to, if you only really have $5 and you're being honest, then give it. If you don't have that even, tell him that you're suffering, and bless you more so you can give more, and just tell him you love him and you're going to obey him, and that's all you can offer is your obedience to him, because you obeying him is more important than giving offerings. So, to clarify, announce the first day of the month, you give to the poor, you blow the shofar, of course, do a fast from evening to evening when you see that new moon. Now Shabbat starts evening to evening. That's that commandment we just talked about. You don't do any work. You don't even start your coffee pot. You got to program it ahead of time. You don't eat anything that you haven't prepared ahead of time. You can't cook. It's forbidden. You better pay attention to that, because he says you're going to be in big trouble if you do it. So get in there and do it. He likes that. The next definition is living waters. Living waters, he says, when you go get immersed, because a lot of people are baptized, or they're immersed, and it's in the name of JC, or they're in the name of whoever you call him. And, in the book of the Sefer, he's called YAHUSHA, and then Yahuwah is his father. Well, when you get baptized in the Savior's name, you get living waters. That's any body of water that is a natural body of water, that actually has fish swimming around in it. So a swimming pool with chlorine, that's what he calls a dead water. That's not a living water. And so if you go into an immersion bath in a big tub or a big vault, or if you get water sprinkled on your head, that's not it. You need to get 2 witnesses and go walk out into the fishing portion of a lake. Don't go jump in a lake, because that's dangerous. But go to the part that's roped off with the little floaty things and walk out into the water up to your waist, wherever you're going to be able to get immersed over your head. And you know how when you drop down on your bottom and you can get the water over your head? Well, you announce to the sky, you tell Father, and you tell the 2 people witnessing, or the 20, however many you got with you, make sure 2 people stay above the water and watch. And you tell him you're going to accept YAHUSHA as your Savior. And you simply do it yourself. If you can't get down in the water and back, have a couple people help you, but you got to get totally covered in the water. It has to go all over you. So you drop down, the water goes over your head, and you simply stand back up. And don't do it till you're ready to give up that sinful way of yours, because you can't do that if you're not serious. It's dangerous. You got to be ready to follow his rules. You don't just do that. It's very dangerous. Be prepared. Prepare yourself before you immerse. I'm not going to say it again. It's very dangerous. Anyway, do it when you're ready, but do it. That's immersion. You got 2 witnesses, you get totally under the water just for a second, it's good enough, and you do it in living water with fish, you have 2 witnesses or more. Now the Torah, there's your next definition. That's your Old Testament, which happens to be occurring all around us, even in these modern times. The names are just different. Read it, you'll see yourself in there. You'll see the things that go on in the earth. And he says the things in the earth are worse now than they was then. Well, it contains the story about how Yahuwah created the earth and the heavens and everything that is inside it. It also contains in the Torah all of his laws, statutes, and commandments that Moshe brought us, or Moses, as you might like to call him. Now the Besorah, when you hear the word Besorah, that's your New Testament. The Torah is the Old Testament. The Besorah is the New Testament. It's a history of when Yahuwah came down as a man and was born to Miriam, or Mary, as you call her. Sometimes some people call her Mary. It's Miriam in the Sefer. I think it's Mary in the KJV. Well, he came down because something was happening. We had to give a lamb for a sin offering. Every time we sinned against his Torah, we'd have to go kill a lamb. And he got tired of these burned offerings. He said, I'm going to go down and make myself the offering once and for all. Because some people couldn't even ask for sin forgiveness. They couldn't afford a lamb to begin with. So he makes the offering free. He's the offering. And so it's the same thing as bringing a lamb to the sheep, to the priest, like a sheep or something, to have the priest slaughter it. It's to get you forgiveness for breaking a law, statute, or commandment that you failed at. YAHUSHA is his name. He's our Savior. It is Yahuwah in the flesh. Okay, some people call him a different name. I advise you study that different name that you've been calling him if it's you. And I want you to study on that hard and know that his name is YAHUSHA. And I want you to find out why on your own. Some people call him a different name, and I don't think he exactly likes that too much. Now, what is a menorah? It's 7 lights. It's 7 candles, 7 lamps in a row. They represent the 7 appointed times, which we're going to go over right now. The first one is the Pakak. That's called Passover, the Pakak. It's when the people escaped from Mitzrayim with the help of Moshe and Yahuwah leading them. It's when they came out of Egypt, basically, the land that you dwell in. Same place. Well, there's the Fast of Unleavened Bread. That happens right after it. Since they were traveling, that's your second candle, the Fast of Unleavened Bread. They call it the Feast of Unleavened Bread, but it's actually a fast because you're eating unleavened bread and drinking water. You don't put anything on it. Don't put anything on your unleavened bread. Don't put sauce. Don't put peanut butter. You eat that plain bread. Flour, water, salt, and a drop of extra virgin olive oil out of your anointing bottle. If you've started to anoint yourself yet, take that little oil bottle and ask him to bless that portion of oil alone as your anointing oil. Ask in Yahusha's name to Yahuwah, and he'll give you that anointing. You can put that anointing on your family and your animals and on your house. And it's worthy to do. You should do it. So, the Fast of Unleavened Bread, they were in a hurry to get out of Mitzrayim or Egypt, and they didn't have time for the bread to rise because they rose it naturally with, natural ingredients. So they were eating flatbread the whole time they were traveling for 7 days when he opened up the sea and they were walking across that dry land, and then Pharaoh's army came and he basically drowned that whole 1,000,000-man army. Well, they didn't have anything to eat but that flatbread. That's to remind us that they ate that. That's an appointed time. That must be observed. So your Pakak, you have first, there's a description of how to do that in the book. You read Leviticus and you'll find that. The unleavened bread comes next. That's your second candle. You got Shavuot, which is the covenant not to eat blood, and the first fruits. They happen on the same day in the same month. First fruits is where you got a garden, you offer some on your altar. You offer it to Yahuwah, and you give a little donation because he's not going to eat that fruit, but it's a respect thing. He's your father. You offer him the first out of your garden, and you cannot eat anything that day until you offer to him. So what we like to do is we'll offer it right before, as we're blowing the shofar, we'll go ahead and offer with it, and we'll blow the shofar because with the offerings you blow the shofar. which is another thing I found out. Then you go on ahead and after you've offered him on the altar, then you guys can go in and eat your dinner. But don't eat a bite, not even a grain of grass before you get that offering to him. And then feed the poor, give them that small offering that divides out. That's one of your appointed times. You'll divide against all of the leftover money you have every year that counts up to that 10% after taxes. Divide it by all these numbers I'm telling you. I don't know if it comes up to 40, whatever it is. And if you want, you can do a goodwill offering and just give money out of the blue. You can do an extra sin offering if you've been particularly sinful. Or you can just do communion. Because with the unleavened bread, like I showed you how to make, where you do the bread, water, the flour, water, a little bit of salt, and then touch it with the anointing olive oil. You just cook it in a pan, and you ask Father to bless that portion of bread, and then you pour you a little bit of wine in a cup, and you ask him to bless that little bit of wine, that portion alone, for the purpose of doing communion. And you remind yourselves how Yahusha sat with his Talmudim, read all those books too while I was in the Sefer. He sat down with his Talmudim at the Pakak, actually. But you can do this anytime you need a sin forgiveness, and we like to do it every night before we go on Shabbat, so we can keep our wine full. We're keeping our oil full by keeping that Shabbat going. Got a little menorah lit with 7 candles. We're also doing communion. You can do it too. Ask him to witness it, bow his head down in there and look at you and listen, him and Yahusha. You remind your children how he was with his Talmudim when he was Yahusha, or his disciples as they call them, but they're called Talmudim. And he told them, he said, I'm going to die for the world's sins. I'm going to become the perfect lamb, the unblemished one. And anyone who believes on me, Yahusha said, and follows my ways and doesn't fall away from the Torah and does all the statutes and commandments and laws, and who believes in me as the son of YAHUA, well, that person I will not punish, but I'll give them everlasting life in the kingdom with my Father. So it's worthy to do communion. But the thing about the Torah and the Besorah is this. The Torah is not dead. The Besorah is not the only thing. They're to work together. He does a talk in the Sefer, I noticed, about an old wineskin and a new wineskin. And he says, you know, the wine in the old skin is really good. And the wine in the new skin is good too. Now, you don't want to switch the wine and put them all in one bag. They're to be enjoyed together, separately, but together. So you got to do the Besorah stuff, which is the Yahusha Savior stuff. But you got to do the Torah stuff, which is all those laws, statutes, and commandments, and do your Shofar, and do your anointing oil, and do your appointed times. You got to nail them, get them done. He loves that, and they're easy to do. I'm telling you, he doesn't ask you to do anything hard. It's so simple, it's ridiculous. I'm surprised we haven't been doing it sooner. I've gone on and on about that. So we've got Shavuot and first fruits. I told you about that, and then I went off on communion. But here we are at the Feast of Weeks. That's your 4th candle. After your first fruits offering of your garden, you count 49 days and then add a day. You do another offering from your garden. There probably won't be anything growing because it's kind of short time to be getting a second pool, but there might be something growing. You offer him the best that you have. So if you get 10 tomatoes, give him the best looking 2 or 3 you can find. Don't give him one with the worm in it. Give him a pretty one. Set it on the altar there. I'll show you how to make an altar in a minute. Plus you give a little offering to the poor that's been divided out amongst you 10% for the year. So you do the math on your own money. You'll figure it out. Trumpets is the number 5 appointed time out of the 7. It's called the memorial of the blowing of shofars. That's all it is. You blow the shofar and you go a fast. You do a fast, so you don't eat from evening to evening. You stop eating. You can drink water, but you give an offering. Now that's the first day of the. I didn't tell you the days of these. I'm gonna go over these. I'll tell you the days. The atonement. That's the number 1 fast of the year. That's number 6. Whoever doesn't do that, you're gonna die. So you want to do that. There's no water, no food. No exceptions. It's a 24-hour period. He says, I want you to afflict yourself for your terrible sins 1 time a year, and I'll forgive you. Now listen to that. If you afflict yourself 1 time a year on the 10th day of the 7th month, I'll forgive you. That's the atonement. No water, no food. That's for you and your kids. That's for the sick person in your home. I don't care how sick they are. I don't care about all your animals, all of them. Nobody gets fed. And that's it. No water, no food. That's what he wants. It doesn't hurt. He actually makes it easy. I did it. And I love to eat. But I'm telling you what, he makes it easy. It's okay. Do it and live. Now, the seventh one is called tabernacles, or you'll hear it called kukot, or you'll hear it called booths, or you'll hear it called tents. This is literally throwing a worldwide party for the King of Kings himself. It's the one where you stay in a tent, okay? Everybody gets in a tent, and I'll show you the dates for that. You stay outside, you live outside. It's his way of reminding you that he made the people dwell in Kukot for 40 years. So for 7 days a year, you got to go live in a tent out in your backyard or go camping, whatever you're going to do. But you stay and live in a tent with your family. And that's how he identifies that you care about him. And that's when he makes you one of his. And if you're not one of his, he's got a plan for you. You don't want to be that guy or that girl. Now, he calls it kukot or booths or tents or tabernacles. They're all the same thing. When you hear it called that, they'll hear it called tabernacles a lot. Of course, a fast, I'll touch on that a little bit more now. A fast, you only drink water or you can drink coffee, but no milk or sugar, no nutrients. So you can drink your coffee if it's black. You can drink your water. Don't put sugar or anything in it. You want to give to the poor. YAHUSHA said, I read about it, YAHUSHA said, when you fast, I want you to give the money you would have spent eating that night with your family. I want you to take that amount of money and give it to the poor. So give it to the food bank, whether it's $13 or $10 or whatever. Give a donation. And that's what he likes. He said, I'll please that. I'll be pleased with that, and I'll accept that fast from you. Now, if you have a need to make an offering and you have no money, then, like I said before, visit an ill person, take them a little food, or just visit them, or do some chores for them, or for an orphan. If an orphan needs help, his bicycle's broken, or he needs an inner tube or a new wheel, give him the tire off of your bicycle or your kid's bicycle if you have an extra tire. And or the widow, if there's a widow, go help her out because she don't have a man to do work for her. So you go and help her on her house. If her roof's got a little scratch on the shingles and you're a roofer and you ain't got no money, then go do some roof work. Go help. Every time you do any kind of offering, if you don't have money, you go help somebody in need. Trust me, there's bunches of people out here that need help. And if you got skills, there's your tithe right there, my friend. So do something free for somebody that needs help with something. Just take action somehow. That's your sacrifice. That's what a tithe is. You're making a sacrifice for your sin, for the fasts, everything. Problem with sacrifices a long time ago I read was that people would sin and then they'd bring him a big fat cow and burn it on the altar, and he'd go on, and the guy would just go on and sin again. Father YAHUA said, I'm getting sick of your fat offerings. I don't want to smell that meat anymore. The whole idea was that you would stop sinning because you had to pay for an expensive cow, but you guys are so rich, you don't even care. You just keep burning cows. I'm sick of your fat offerings, your big cows. He said, stop sinning. So when you sacrifice, make it a sacrifice and try not to sin again every single time. So here's some stuff where I talked about giving the 10% tithe. I'm not going to go over that again because I got a little sidetracked and got on talking about it. What is unleavened bread? You know, talking about this feast of or fast of unleavened bread. It's actually called a word called matzah. So it's hard to pronounce. Matz and then T and then sa. So you're going to go matzah. Well, what it is, it's flour and water and a little salt. A little flat patty, maybe about the size of a $50. Maybe a little bigger if you want, but not too big. Break it amongst the people in your family. If you need more, make a little bit bigger one. Put a little salt on there, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil from your anointing bottle just when you're done, and that's all you can put. Flour, water, a little salt for taste, and a little dab of that olive oil after you fry it in a pan with no extra oil, flat, dry on a pan. That's it. Anything else in there is polluted, and YAHUA doesn't like that. I read it for you, so I can tell it to you here. So make a note. Don't add anything into the prepared flour before you cook it. And never spread any toppings on your unleavened bread. Nothing. Don't put anything on it, or it's polluted. Yahuwah, he forbids that. So don't do it. Now the shofar, of course, how you blow it, I told you when you blow it, you're going to bow your face to the ground, facing the part of the sky. You got to face where the sun travels across the sky. On your compass, you'll read it. It'll tell you north. Mine does. And that's where Yahuwah's throne is. So you make the announcement that you're going to do either an offering. You blow the shofar every offering I found. And when you're going to do the new moon announcements, you bow down to the ground with your forehead. Tell him you're either doing an offering or you're doing the new moon announcement or both. And then you give it a good 7-second blast. Okay? And that should be good. It's real easy. I think it makes Yahuwah happy in some way, and it's real good. So be confident. Try to make it sound really good. And that'll be that. Now, what about this first fruits? Remember, put the stuff on the altar. You got to put your fruits there. What altar? I don't have no altar. No, you don't. And I didn't either. But I read about it. And Yahuwah seems to think that there's a lot of altars that he doesn't appreciate. He says that an altar can only be made from two things. And you wouldn't believe how simple it is. He's made it so that the poorest of the poor can have an altar. And he wants you to put it in a place that's in a prominent place in your yard where everyone can see it. It can't be overshadowed by any trees. So if you have in a place that doesn't have trees, you'll want to clear a space somehow. But what it is you take dirt. You either take dirt and pile it up. You could probably make little mud bricks and kind of stack it up in the shape of like a pillar or like a soda can, about as big around as it would take to put a little bit of fruit on. You know, as big as you want to make it. It's a little work, maybe about up to your waist. He says you can't make it so tall that you got to climb a ladder to it, because that's not very modest now if you're wearing something that people can see. So you want to stay low to the ground, but not on the ground. So do it as much as your back can handle, because carrying dirt's a hard job. The only other way, and of course after you do that pile of dirt, I must add, take your bottle of anointing oil and pour about a quarter cup rather of that oil. Ask him to bless that altar. You tell him, I made this altar for you. Nobody's going to touch it. I'm going to revere it. I'm going to make sure to take a shower before I approach it. I've learned that. And then you ask him to bless it, and you pour that oil on there, and you tell him that you thank him for showing you how to make that altar, and that you'll revere it and you'll use it, and you'll bless him with it by offering on it to him. So you pour the olive oil on there from your anointing bottle, or a half cup that you ask him to bless personally for that purpose. And then that altar is ready to go. And then keep things from growing over it. Keep it in an area where it's protected. Don't let your dogs run on it. Just don't do it. Keep a good protection around it. That's one way to do it. Pile of dirt stacked up. The other way is rocks or stones. But not any stones. He says unhewn stone. And an unhewn stone is a stone that has not had a tool put to it. So if you had a bunch of stones that are in the shape of bricks, it's polluted, it's unclean. He says if a tool touches it, it's unclean, and I won't accept it. So they have to be raw rocks from the ground. So unless you have a bunch of raw stones that are like totally natural, with nobody's ever hit them with a hammer or anything, unless you have that to stack up in the shape of a pillar, then you probably want to be using dirt. And I don't think you're supposed to take those rocks and use dirt for cement to smooth out the shape of it. It's either a dirt pile or it's a rock pile, but it's not both. And if there's any kind of artwork on it, you have just really displeased the kingdom of heaven. Don't do it. You don't put anything on there. When you stack those rocks up, pour your anointing oil on there and have him bless it. Ask him to bless it. And you've got yourself a stone altar. And then you revere it. Don't let anything grow over it. Now, when you're looking through the first 5 books, you got the cleanliness laws. That'll show you how to clean yourself. You got business laws, how to do business with integrity and honesty. You got marriage laws. You guys get in those first 5 books and read them to your family. That's what your job is. You read 10 minutes a day every night. I don't care what it takes. You make sure you do it. I've read that thing a few times to bring this to you, and I expect you to give a little shot toward Yahuwah and work toward him. And I'm telling you what, man, You start doing that Shabbat, he's going to give you a wisdom every time you do it. If you don't do that Shabbat, he's not going to give you wisdom. So start by doing that Shabbat every seventh day and read that book every night for 10 minutes, and he'll get you to understand what he means and what he wants, and you'll start to see the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So the food laws, it'll show you what food you can eat and cannot eat. You'd be surprised to know shellfish is unclean. Just don't do it. There's all kinds of stuff you cannot eat. You're not allowed. It's disgusting. He'll tell you what you can eat. You need to look at that for yourself. Another word is the covenant. What's a covenant? It's a binding oath between you and Yahuwah. If you break the covenant with Yahuwah, you're in big trouble. So if you decide to have that covenant with him and follow his laws, statutes, and commandments and do his appointed times and the Shabbat, well, he'll love you for it, and he'll count you as one of his own. But then if you stop, well, you're dead. Now, if you're not doing it right now anyway, you're dead, so you better start doing it. He'll disown you, he says. He'll cut you out of your inheritance. That doesn't sound like a good thing. I read that and I thought, I better warn somebody. Well, never break the covenant once you learn about it and start doing it. If you never learn about the covenant, I'm sorry, but you're not going to get an inheritance. That's not good. But if you learn about the covenant and do it for a little while, you'll find out it's really easy to do, and it's really fun because he shows you how to live correctly. You'll be surprised. It's like your dad is raising you from being a child again and how to act correctly. He's very, very talented, and his technique is flawless in how to get your attention. He's a really good father, the best. But don't stop if you start, because that's a real insult to him. Anyway, you check it out. You look for that covenant, you learn how to do the laws, statutes, and commandments, and you follow those appointed days, and you do that Shabbat. Let's see. We went through all those 7 candle days, and there they are again. Kind of tells you a little bit what's going on in each one. So Pakak, I'll start with that real quick. Let me give you a quick rundown. It's a feast day. It memorializes Moshe leading the people out of the captivity of Mitzrayim, or Egypt. They were in captivity in Babel. They were confused. They didn't even know they were captives. And here come Moshe, Yahuwah leading him. He helped them get them out of there. Now, Pekach, it'll show you in Leviticus chapter 23. It'll show you how to do it. Just do it the best you can. You can stumble your way through it, and Yahuwah will count it as for righteousness. Stumble through it. Leviticus 23. Do everything it says, even the part about keeping your shoes on that night. Do it all. Right after that, the very next day, you eat nothing but unleavened bread for 7 days. That's your fast of unleavened bread. He wants you to remember, on the way out of there, you fasted for 7 days. You give an offering on Pekach and an offering every day for 7 days. So there's 8 offerings a year right there, plus your 12 for the first day of the month, so you're at 20 offerings. So your little $1,000 needs to divide by 20 already, doesn't it? So you're not giving a whole lot. You're only giving a little. Everybody can do that. Okay. Now the next one comes up, and we talked about that. Shavuot. That's don't eat blood. It's a covenant between you and him. And then the other thing is first offering of your increase. That's your first fruits out of your garden, or just a 10% off, not a 10% offering, but part of your offering of your increase. If you get a raise, add that every year. If you make $300 more a month, then you're going to be given $30 more a month. That's all it is, 10%. If you don't make any more money, if you get a pay cut, then you immediately give less. If you lose $300 a month, or you lose your job, you're not giving any money anymore because you didn't make anything. You know, so you could do helpful work for somebody if you can. And if you can't, do it as you're able. If you're not body able, Yahuwah knows you better than anybody. You are actually one of the people that the others should be helping. And he'll feel sorry for you, and he'll love you. And we sure do too, because you're bothering to listen to this. You know, we're all alone in this world. I'm sure you are too. Well, it's going to be okay, friendly. You know, he's coming. You guys are good. It'll be all right. So you give him a sampling off your first harvest. You put that on the altar. And you can remove that fruit that you put down for him, the really good-looking stuff you have, after 2 days. It doesn't have to be a bunch of fruit. Just a little sampling of everything you have. And then when things come ripe, you can put a couple more things up, blow the shofar again, and offer to him. But after 2 days, you may remove that from the altar, and then your family can eat it. What you're trying to do is put that out in front of him, blow the shofar after you bow to him, take your shower, bow to him, blow the shofar, show him you're giving him an offering. That's like handing the plate to your father before you take a bite of the goodies. And that's just polite. If he was sitting in your kitchen and you had a plate of food, wouldn't you say, Father, would you like a bite first? And that's what we're doing. He's the King of Heaven. He's right there watching us, and he's right beside us all day long. You just can't see him, but he's there. So you want to offer him that food, and he's got a little altar for you to do, and he made it so a poor person can do it. Pile up some dirt, pour some oil on it, ask him to bless it, and get to work making him happy and loving you. Now, Feast of Weeks. Oh, also that offering. Anytime you do that food offering, you don't eat anything that day. If that's a Feast of Weeks, or rather the first fruits offering, he forbids you to eat anything before you do that offering. He gets offered food first that day. So you don't do that. You offer that to him. Once that's offered, you guys can go on ahead and feed your bellies. And just know that you offered your father first. And I'll tell you, that's a special relationship when you're treating him like he's right there in your kitchen. It's a good thing to have an altar for him. He likes it. Feast of Weeks. From that date that you choose, it'll probably be that Feast of First Fruits is in the 3rd month. You just pick a day in the 3rd month. Usually it's in the middle of the month for First Fruits and Shavuot, the no blood eating covenant. But you count 49 days from that, and then you add a day, and it's the 50th day. That's going to be your second harvest offering. You'll put some more stuff on the altar. Take your shower, go bow down to the altar, or rather to the sky there where the sun cuts across. That's where the throne is. Tell him that you're going to make an offering, and you're going to approach the altar. You want to be cleaned up before you do it. Put on clean clothes. You blow that or rather you go to the altar. You put your fruits on there. If you don't have any fruits, go ahead and give your money offering online or whatever you're doing, and then blow the shofar, and you're done. Go back inside and be happy that you've got a father that's watching you, and he likes that you are being obedient. There's not many people doing it. You could be one. The next one is trumpets. The memorial of the blowing of shofars. It is a water fast. You do not eat that day. So from that evening to the next evening, you don't eat. All you got to do is give an offering. You're going to blow the shofar when you see the new moon at evening, because it's also a double thing. It happens on the first day of the month. I'll show you those dates. That's actually the first day of the 7th month. So you're actually going to be announcing the first day of the 7th month, and you're going to be announcing the memorial of the blowing of shofars, which you give it a good blast. You give the money, to the food, poor, or whatever you're going to do. And pretty much that's it. You don't eat, but you may drink water or unsweetened drinks like black coffee. And that's for 24 hours starting that evening. But most of it's done in bed. You go to sleep. So it's really easy. He doesn't even ask for that much. It's very simple once you get doing it. You'll see it's easy. The atonement happens on the 10th that month, the 10th day of the 7th month. That's the one that if you don't do it, you're definitely not one of his. You got no inheritance with him. You don't eat any food or drink any water for 24 hours. He says you must afflict your soul that day, you and everybody in your household and all your animals. And that's everybody. I don't care if grandma is sick in bed. You have her atone for 24 hours. That's for her sin. One time a year, if you do that, he'll forgive your sins. He's not going to let you die during the atonement. I know that. But it's not hard to do. He makes it easy on you. So read about that in Leviticus 23, all of these. So you got to do it exactly on the 10th day of the 7th month. So how does that work? Well, when does the 10th day of the 7th month start? It starts in the evening on the 9th day of the 7th month, doesn't it? So on the 9th day of the 7th month, you get to the nighttime of it, and then that begins the 10th day of the 7th month. So it actually starts at night. So remember that. And then go around till you get to the evening the next night, and it'll be over with. And it'll be fine. You'll be all right. It's easy. I thought it was going to be hard. It's easy. Of course, the one right after that comes up on the 14th. your kukot, your tabernacles, your booths, your tents, whatever they call it. Everybody calls it something different, but it's all the same thing. It goes like this. There is one Shabbat, which you know that's no work, so you can't start your campfire when you're camping. No campfires when you camp during Shabbat. And there's a Shabbat there. And all through these 7 next days, you actually do a feast. But somewhere in that 7 days, there's a natural Shabbat that happens on Friday night. You got to do that Shabbat. No campfires that night either. Then, at the very end, there's a day called the 8th day, or the last great day. It's also called addition. It's an 8th day, and that is a Shabbat. So the first day on the 14th is a Shabbat. The 8th day on the 22nd evening, that's the evening of the 22nd, that's a Shabbat. And then from the 15th through the 21st, that's your feast day. But there's a natural Shabbat that falls on a Friday somewhere in there, I guarantee you, because it's 7 days. So it's a very important appointed time. It's a feast unto Yahuwah. It's called the feast unto Yahuwah. It's where the world is supposed to get together, and they're supposed to throw a party for him because of all of his great works. Now, if everybody on the earth does it, you got to think of it this way. If everybody on earth is doing it, having a campfire, when they start that feast after that first Shabbat, he's got everybody showing up from the earth, and they're going to do it. And it's a special thing because the earth is his footstool. So you'll hear all these shofars go off at once, and he's up there smiling. And then he sees all these campfires light up on the second day when the feast begins, and he's smiling because he's got his feet up, and he can feel the heat of all of our campfires. And he's like, that's my children. And we're like, there's our Father. And so if the whole earth does it, it's very special. You got to observe that. Read about how that works and do it the best you can. He says you take the boughs of goodly trees and you build a little kuka or a building to sleep in. We don't know how to do that. We don't have any trees. We bought a tent at Walmart, and we fit in it just fine with cots. And then we do have a fruit tree somewhere around the neighborhood. We grabbed snagged a couple branches off of there and from our neighbor, and we plucked those, and then we kind of hung those on there. And then once in a while you wave them at him because he can see that fruit moving. You wave at him in the sky. He says you wave branches at him. Read the description in Leviticus 23, chapter 23, and you'll see what I mean. What you want to do is stumble through that as best as you can, and he'll show you that he approves in a very special way. Now, Purim, that's your last appointed time. And that's not one of the 7, but Purim is important. I found that about accident. I found it out by accident. Purim. It's in the book of Ector, or you call it Esther in the KJV. It's Ector or Esther. In that book, there's a big thing where they're going to come and kill the people of Yehuda, And so the people of the world, or the people of the city, they're against them, and they're going to kill them. And so a big letter goes out, tells them to do that. And then all of a sudden it gets reversed. And all of a sudden the people are saved. Now it says that Yehuda goes and starts killing all the people, but that's not true. It's just, he says there's been violence done to the Torah. Yahuwah says there's been violence done to the Torah. So they've gone on ahead, and wrote violence in it. But he says, remember, it was Yahuwah who fought for you. It wasn't your bow or spear. So Yahuwah always fights for you. Remember that. Don't ever take revenge. He tempts people to do things to you in order to correct you because you're not walking in his ways. So when somebody treats you bad, he's opening you up and putting a breach in your wall so you'll be corrected. It's his special way of dealing with you. Embrace it and figure out what you're doing wrong quick. And that'll stop happening. He'll give you some correction. But as you read that word, he'll teach you that more. But you won't learn anything about this book unless you do that Shabbat first. I'll say it again. You got to do the Shabbat, or you'll get no wisdom from him. But he most assuredly is on the throne, and his kingdom is most assuredly coming, and that right soon. So be careful. So the story is, on the 14th day of that 12th month, you end up doing a fast. That's water only, and then give a donation. And then on the next day, on the 15th day of the 12th month, you'll have a feast. So go ahead and feed your family real good and give a donation. And that's all you do. It's like real easy. So there's no big deal there. Read the story. Read the book of Ector or Esther. That's all there is to it. Now here's that part I told you about where a graven image. So the graven image, remember the commandment that said, don't bow down to any graven images? I think I told you about that. Well, when it says don't bow down to any graven images, everybody says to yourself, oh, okay, what exactly is that? Well, I found it in the Sefer. I found it in the book of Jasher. I don't know, and so it's in page 355. If you've got your Sefer, it's 355. It's actually chapter 31. So 355, chapter 31, in verses 40 through verse 44 of the Sefer. Now listen to this closely. This will be the most interesting thing you've heard all day, I'm sure. Well, maybe not. Actually, there's a lot of interesting things. But this is pretty spooky. It says 40. And Rachel, I call her Raquel. Her name's Rachel or Raquel. It's Lavan's daughter. She stole her father's images, and she took them and she concealed them upon the camel upon which she sat. And she went on. So Yaakov had just taken his wife Raquel and everything that he owned, all his animals, and they took off. So her dad is looking for them because he's been working him hard for years, and he wants him back. He wants his daughters. But it was his time to go. He worked for him for fair. You can read about Yaakov and his troubles. But this is what it says in Jasher about these graven images. The next verse says, she hid his images in the seat of the camel that she was riding on. And this is the manner of the images. So in other words, this is what they were. Listen to this. In taking a man who is the firstborn and slaying him, and taking the hair off his head, and taking salt, and salting the head, and anointing it in oil, then taking a small tablet of copper, or a tablet of gold, and writing the name upon it. I don't know what name. Trust me, I don't know. But hey, it says, and placing the tablet under his tongue, this dead body, right? And taking the head with the tablet under the tongue, so cut the head off, and take this head with the tablet under the tongue, and putting it in the house, so they put it in their house somewhere, and lighting up lights before it, so they're going to light up some candles or lights, and bowing down to it. Now YAHUA says, don't bow down to any graven images. And we're all like, well, what's a graven image? It's right there. It's a cut off head of a firstborn man. Now listen to what they're doing it for. This goes on to this day. Listen, and at the time when they bow down to it, this is what they're doing. It speaks to them in all matters that they ask of it, through the power of the name which is written in it. So definitely some sort of demon's name or something. So there's that. And that's pretty gross. And then there's more. And some people make them in the figures of men, of gold and silver. So he's talking about statues that look like men, and go to them in times known to them, and ask the figures, and the figures receive the influence of the stars, which is your fallen angels, and it tells them future things. So they come and talk to these statues with this dead guy's head in it, and it tells them the future. And in this manner were the images which Raquel stole from her father. So she hid those little heads under the seat of her camel. So that's what he was into. And then this next one says, and Raquel stole these images which were her father's. And why? In order that Lavan, her father, might not know through them where Yaakov had gone. He was going to ask them, where did they go? And the heads were going to answer him. So that's what graven images are. Father don't like it. He's like, don't you do that. And so there you go. And everybody's like, well, I don't have any graven images. No, you don't. You ever see anybody bow down to a statue in any place? There might be a head in there. You ever smash that thing open and pull that head out of there? There might be a head in there. Better be careful. You're not supposed to make an image of anything that's in the earth or in the sky or down in the water. You're not supposed to make drawings, photographs, nothing. There's a lot of special things they do with that stuff. Pretty gross. You should look into it. It's bad. Father doesn't like it. All right. What else we got? We have the book, things you need to do. You got the creator of heaven and earth. His name is Yahuwah. We all know that. His son is called YAHUSHA. We know that. You need to accept YAHUSHA as your savior and get immersed, which we talked about. And we talked how you get immersed in YAHUSHA's name already. We did the first 10 commandments. We read them. We talked about doing communion instead of burning big cows on the altar and a priest for your sin. You're going to do communion. I told you how to do that. Wine and the oil. And of course, you can do it at home. You don't need a special priest to do it because, trust me, Father will bless your home. You perform communion in your home. Keep that menorah also. You're going to do the Torah and the Besorah from now on. That's what needs to be done. Keep that 7 lamps in the window 24 hours a day. You can use candle lit by batteries. You can buy little fake candles online so you don't have a fire danger. I refuse to have a live flame in my house. I won't do it. Father likes it just fine. Now it's obedience that's anything. We can stumble through as long as we're obeying. He's really happy about it. Now you got to remember something about Yahuwah. When you have a good thought, that's from him. He walks alongside you all day long. And this is hard to remember. All your bad thoughts, they're from Yahuwah as well. He's walking with you. He's always with you. He's trying to test you. And he's also trying to help you learn how to refuse the bad and accept the good. He'll continually do it. And he's the one that does all bad and good things. It ain't the devil. That's Yahuwah. He's doing it. So don't blame the devil. It is Yahuwah himself. The devil, he's just a servant of Yahuwah. It's Father's word that's happening when you have a bad thought. I told you how the moon appears through the month. We did that. Now I need to tell you how many days there are a month. That's what's left. How to blow the shofar we covered. How to build an acceptable altar. I told you that. Dirt or unhewn stone. No tools. No fancy engravings. Nothing. Plain dirt piled up. Plain rocks piled up. Now I told you about a Shabbat for your land. I didn't do that. Every 7 years, you're not allowed to garden your land or work your animals. That's just the way it is. And all of your servants have to have the year off. A Shabbat for your land and animals and all your workers. That's all there is to it. Let's see. Actually, you're supposed to free them from the captivity of your servitude. But I don't know how that goes. I'm not going to quote that here. You look it up for yourself when you're busting through those laws, statutes, and commandments. I still have a little work to do on that myself. I'm trying to learn to live uprightly. So I don't know all the answers. But the things I'm telling you about tonight, I know them. I read them a bunch of times, and I'm working them. And I've seen some appreciation. I've seen some acceptance by our Father Yahuwah in heaven. And I want to tell you that it's true. Of course, we talked about sin offerings. You know, that's your communion. Goodwill offerings, just because you feel good, you got a little extra, you want to help out some people. Peace offerings, you can ask him to get peace in your home, give a little offering. How to give, we already talked about that, 10%, split it up over the year. Your goodwill offerings, your sin offerings, and your peace offerings are additional above the 10%. You have to do the minimum 10% or do work every time for some people. Now those images, your photographs, your statues and all that, Father wants you to destroy those. You'll find that out about reading in the Sefer. You'll find out that there's a man called Yoshiyahu who went through the town destroying all that stuff. Father was well pleased with that man. Those images are able to be looked through. Evidently, according to the Sefer, they can see through the eyes of a photograph. They can see through the eyes of a statue. They can come through your mirrors and enter your house because they're witches. It's witchcraft. And it's been going on since, like forever. As we're reading the Sefer, I'm seeing there's a certain magician. And I'm telling you what, man, that guy could do some stuff. But Yahuwah wouldn't let him do it all. Now, that magic does come from our King himself. So, it's a snare. Don't get into witchcraft because it looks fun. Let's see. I got to verify the yearly calendar. And now it was verified by sight. I went and watched all year long and I wrote it down. I'm going to give you the amount of days in each month. And you use what you've learned. And I hope you've taken some good notes. And I hope that you learned a lot. but I'm going to have to cut this a little short because I think I'm about out of stuff to talk about. Now, we're going to talk about this next one here. I think I should be able to wrap it up here in a minute. Let me see. This is what a typical year looks like. I'm going to show you how to do a year. You ready? Now, first, before I go farther, in case I run out of time, I need to tell you how many days there are in each month. That's the one thing I need to show you. If I can find it. And it is somewhere. Oh, I may have to just read it straight out of the book over there if I can get a hold of that real quick. I've got it listed. Maybe the little one is what I should probably try. It's just right there. There are 12 months of the year. There are 12 months in the year. And as I took notes and I watched the new moon come up, I had to watch during, the big one actually. If I had to watch during cloudy days, sometimes I blew the shofar because I took a chance and I ended up being right and I jotted it down. So here's how it goes. Get your pencil right now. Get your pencil. Your first month, there are 30 days. Your second month, there are 30 days. I'll type this as I go because you might not be able to keep up. I thought I had it written down, but I'm just not having a fun time finding it. I'll put a notepad up real quick. Let me get an open window on here. I'll get another notepad up. Okay, month 1, 30 days. Do you see that? All right. Month 2, there's, looks like 30 days. Okay, so they're matching up. Now I saw this happen twice. And I watched, and I saw the new moon, and I know what it looks like, and I showed you what it looks like. The third month, there's only 29 days. Now your fourth month, there's going to be 30 days. Let me double check that. Yep. In your fifth month, there's going to be 29 days, and then your new moon will come up. And then your sixth month, there's going to be 29 days. I hope you're writing this down. Then your seventh month, because if you got to look for those moons and you don't know how many to count, it's real hard when it gets cloudy. Your seventh month, 29 days. All right. Now your eighth month, you're going to have 30 days. And then your ninth month. Whoops. Your ninth month, you're going to have 30 days, and I'll double check these before I say it's for sure. And then your 10th month, you're going to have 30 days, and then your 11th month, you're going to have 28 days. That's a different one, isn't it? 28 days. Your 12th month, you're going to have 31 days. Okay, so I'm going to read them to you real quick. You got 1 through 12. I'll read them right out of the book, not even what I typed here, but you double check if I'm right. First month, 30. Second month, 30. Third month, 29. Fourth month, 30. Fifth month, 29. Sixth month, 29. Seventh month, 29. Eighth month, 30. Ninth month, 30. 10th month, 30. 11th month, 28. 12th month, 31 days. You add that up, and that's how many days you have in your year. Okay, there's your numbers. I'll get rid of that. That's how many days are in the year. You add it up for yourself. I think I'm probably going to show you how a typical year looks as you go through worshiping Yahuwah, and then this video will be over, and I ask Yahuwah to give you understanding through this whole process so that you can enjoy the blessings that He has in store for you. If I can find it. I have one called What a Year Looks Like. Okay, let's see if I got it ready. Here we go. Now, here we go. Run through it real quick. All of the appointed times. An example of a typical year. First of all, Shabbat is every Friday evening to Saturday evening. You must guard the Shabbat. Every week forever. It is more important than any other appointed time to Yahuwah, and it must be guarded. even during another appointed time. It supersedes the appointed times. That Friday night Shabbat has to be met continually 52 times a year, or whatever it is in a year, and you have to do it for the rest of your life. Father identifies you as his own through that Shabbat. And a little secret, when you do the Shabbat, every week he'll give you a real quick, deep kind of wisdom gem. You'll understand something you never knew every single Shabbat. That's what took me several years to get back to doing this video. He feeds you wisdom on the Shabbat. And if you don't do the Shabbat, you'll never understand the Sefer or the Bible or whatever you want to call it. He'll never give you that wisdom because you're not obeying and guarding the Shabbat. So if you guard that Shabbat, the wisdom will flow. Now, with that in mind, Shabbat happens all the time. I'll keep repeating it. The first month, you got your Shabbat every Friday evening to Saturday evening. First thing out of the box. You always know that. And then the first day of the first month, that's your covenant renewal. That's when you say you choose YAHUA, and that's all there is to it. Enoch did it. You'll read about him in the Sefer. That's when Enoch did it. He renewed the covenant for the people. That YAHUA was going to be theirs, and he's going to be ours. That's our inheritance, our YAHUA, our King, our Father. That's the first day of the first month. Nothing else except till 2 weeks later now, in the first month. The next week you're still doing Shabbats every Friday night, but all of a sudden, on the 14th day of the first month, you got this important one, Pekach. Of course, you know, you read about it in Leviticus 23, the 14th day of the first month, Pekach. Do it just like it says, the best as you can. You got to clean all the leaven out of your house. You go through your house and clean out all of the yeast. Anything that has yeast in cans, set them outside. Get them out of your house. Clean your cupboards. You got to clean deep. Get all the yeast out of your house. It's a big deal. It's a lot of work. You get started a month early and get that done. Clean it out. Make sure there's no yeast in your house. Because if you're doing the Feast of Unleavened Bread, or rather the Fast of Unleavened Bread for the next 7 days after Pekach, and you get some yeast on that, or you have a dirty kitchen, boy, oh boy, if you polluted it, that's going to be a sad thing. It'll ruin it. The first day of unleavened bread is to be a Shabbat, and the last day of unleavened bread is to be a Shabbat. Keep that in mind. And there are also regular Shabbats. So Fast of Unleavened Bread is for 7 days. So you got the 15th through the 21st of the first month. Those 7 days is a Fast of Unleavened Bread. Second month, Shabbat every Friday evening to Saturday evening. There's no appointed times that I could find through the whole Sefer. The whole Bible, I can't find anything about the second month. So you're free to just do whatever. You're going to do your Shabbat every Friday and Saturday evening. Now your third month, there is something. You got the Shavuot, that where you say, you know, I'm not going to eat blood. I won't eat the meat with the blood in it. And the first fruits, where you offer the stuff from your garden. Now after that day, you're to do it in any day during the third month. This year we actually did it, right around the 15th. About the middle of the month is a good time. But whenever day you do that on, you count 50 days, 49 days plus 1. And you're doing your Shabbats on Friday night all the way through that time every week. So you get to the fourth month, and that's not 50 days yet. So you're going to keep going. You'll go through that. There's no appointed times through the fourth month. You're going to keep doing your Shabbats every Friday night to Saturday night evening, rather. And you're going to keep on counting to 50 through that fourth month, and then your 50 is going to hit sometime in the fifth month. But you're going to keep doing your Shabbat every Friday evening to Saturday evening. And on that 50th day, from the Shavuot and first fruits, you're going to do something called the Feast of Weeks. And that's your 50-day second harvest. You give the offering, you blow the shofar, you do the whole thing that I told you about. And you can read about that in Leviticus 23. So that's what a year looks like. The 6th month, you don't have any appointed times. You're just kind of doing Shabbats every Friday night and Saturday evening. Up to the Saturday evening, then you're free to do whatever you want. But in a Shabbat, you're not even supposed to do the fun things you like to do. That's a time for you to read that book and get to know him a little better. If you haven't, you spend that time in the book reading to your family, and you're not supposed to sit and play your instruments or go ahead and play baseball. You're not supposed to do anything. It says don't work, but he's not saying you don't go out of your house, and you don't travel, and you don't bring things in and out of your house. You don't work on your roof. When you do Shabbat, you don't do a thing. You don't play video games. You don't do anything. It's forbidden. You don't sit and listen to music on your phone. You don't do anything. You don't make texts or calls. You turn your phone off. I'm serious. The Shabbat's important. You better learn to do it very well. If you will, it'll help you, and you'll get wisdom from it. Now, that was the 6th month that we're busting through, and the Shabbats keep going every week. 7th month, we're moving quick. First day. Of course, that's going to be the first day of the first month, because you're always blowing that shofar every first day of the first month. I forgot to mention through all these. Every first day of the first month, you're going to blow the shofar, and you're going to do a fast. Remember that? Jot that down and fill that in. Make a little side note and fill it in on a sheet, because I forgot to mention it. But anyway, first day of the 7th month, that's going to be your trumpets, atonement, and kukot month. The first day is trumpets, and then we talked about how to do that. The 10th day will be atonement. We talked about that. Afflict your soul. Told you about that. No food and water for anybody for 24 hours. It's easy, trust me. It's a lot easier than it sounds. I thought it was going to be hard. Then the 14th day of the 7th month, that's going to be a fast in your tent. You have to be in your tent that night, ready to go, but you'll fast. And it's also a Shabbat. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's not a fast. I'm totally wrecking this. I get tied up. I got so much to write. It's a Shabbat. Okay, scratch that fast. If I said that earlier, that the 14th was a fast, when I get talking fast, I forget the words. And Shabbat and fast, I get them mixed up, and I'm so sorry about that. You know, I'm new at it too, and I'm stumbling. I stumble quite a lot. But it's a Shabbat, okay? So the 7th day, or rather the 14th day of the 7th month, first day of the tabernacle, is going to be a Shabbat. The 15th day, which is the next day, through the 21st, that's 7 days straight. That's going to be the actual feast unto Yahuwah, where you're throwing a big party for him. You know, make some nice little announcements of what he's done in your life. Wave the fruit branches to him if you have any. Have a tent. You're going to stay in your tent. Have your food all prepared a couple weeks early. So you got all the food you need out there, all your charcoal, all your firewood. Now remember, on those Shabbats, don't make a campfire. You're not allowed to light a fire on Shabbat. You're not allowed to build a fire at all. Don't do it. But that's 7 days. There will be a Shabbat in there too where you can't have a fire. But nobody on earth is supposed to have it on that day either during that feast. The very last day is called the Addition, or they call it the last great day. It's also the Shabbat. It's a Shabbat. And that's how that goes. So you'll have a Shabbat to start it. You'll have 7 days of feast with a Shabbat on there somewhere, wherever it falls naturally. And then the last day, the last great day, will be a Shabbat. So it's about 9 days long from evening to evening. And you'll come out of your tent on the evening of the 22nd, right before the 23rd. You guys can go in your house then if you want. But if you want to sleep an extra night in the tent, you can. I kind of think about it as if you went into town to see the great kingdom at the temple, like he will in the future. You'd probably stay in your tent that night and then travel in the morning. But you get a Shabbat to rest up before you travel home, basically is what it is. But we're doing it from our house, so we're not really traveling. Nice thing about this, 8th month, no appointed times. I looked through the whole book, no appointed times. You got Friday evening to Saturday evening Shabbats, that's it. 9th month, nothing, no appointed times, easy to go. Shabbats every Friday night to Saturday night or evening. 10th month, no appointed times, nothing big. There's 3 months straight, just Shabbats. You always hit that Shabbat. That's an important thing you got to do. The 11th month, easy ride, nothing else, no appointed times. Watching for the new moon every month. Make sure you blow the shofar to announce the new month, so that your appointed times happen correctly, because like that appointment time called atonement, you got to hit it on the 10th day of the 7th month. So if you don't know when that first day of the 7th month is, you're going to miss that atonement day. And he said if you don't do that in the self-same day, he's going to cut you off. Don't let it happen. But I showed you how many days are in the month. Don't be fooled. Count. I showed you how the new moon looks. You look for it. I might even get you started and tell you when the new moon is next, but I could tell you when it was from last month, maybe, and then you could count forward. You want to do that? Well, maybe I'll do that at the very end. The 12th month. Now you got Purim. You do have a thing. The 14th day for Purim, that's where they reverse that order to kill the Yahudim, the Yahuda people. The 14th day is a fast. 15th day is a feast. And then you start over on the first month again when the new moon comes. And you go up here, and all of a sudden, you go, okay, we're going to blow the shofar and start the first day of the first month, and you're going to do the covenant renewal again. And then you're going to do Pekak on the 14th. And then the 15th through the 21st, you're going to do 7 days of a fast of unleavened bread. And now you've done a whole year of Yahuwah's appointed times. Those are the only days you're allowed to celebrate. So anything on your calendar, Father forbids. And hate to say it, but he doesn't like any of the appointed times or feast days or celebrations, except for what I've mentioned to you here. Those are the ones he is accepting. That's it. All right. Now, the last thing I'll tell you is, if I can find it, I have my little chart of the moon. I'll read you a couple of new moons in a row. And if you're still listening, I'll bet you are a very special child of Yahuwah. Now, you'll be able to count. You'll be able to count. I'll give you the last 2 months. I'll give you the last 2 months of the new moon. And I visually saw it by sight. And I'll tell you when the new moon's coming again, and I'll bet you it'll be right. So I don't care what they say. If you look, you'll see it. Now, let's see. We're in December right now. So our days start on the regular Gregorian calendar in the daytime. But the days of the Colic calendar, or with Yahuwah's calendar, they start in the evening. So you got to remember that while you're looking at your calendar. It'll confuse you. Okay? That's what they call a little Babylonian confusion. Okay? Well, your first day of the month, in the 9th month, okay, was, if you listen, first day of the 9th month at evening. Write that down. First day, 9th month at evening. First day, 9th month at evening. Your date? November 6th, 2021. That's your new moon. First day, 9th month at evening. New moon. November 6th on the Gregorian calendar. That would be at nighttime on November 6th. And your next new moon was, let's see, your next new moon was in the evening of December 6th. Your next new moon was on the evening of December 6th of 2021. So your first day of the 10th month at evening, that's when your day starts. So your first day of the 10th month goes from the evening till the evening of the next. So your day actually goes over the line that separates the days of the Gregorian calendar. It's confusing. First day, 10th month, at evening, it was the new moon. It was around 5 p.m., by the way. Maybe it's, it might say 5 a.m., I can't tell. Well, either way, whatever it was. So, let's see, you're going to have that as December 6th, and I'll double check. December 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. That's December 6th. That's your new moon for the 10th month. Now, your new moon for your 11th month, that's going to be in the evening on January 11th. You hear me? January 11th. I'm sorry, made a mistake. See, I'm trying to fool you. Sorry about that. Big mistake of mine. I didn't mean to say that. Scratch that. I'm looking at 1/11, which is the first day of the 11th month at evening, and I'm getting confused. It's actually January 5th, 2022. So January 5th, 2022 at evening, that will be your first day of the 11th month for your appointed times. So now you got the 9th month, the 10th month, and the 11th month. And you should be able to use my counts for how many days there are in the month and watch for that new moon, and you might not miss it, and then you'll be good to go. That's about it for now. That's a lot of information. It's confusing, and I spent a couple years getting it down for you. I told you I would. I said I'll do a study on it. Well, it's been a few years. It's been a lot of hard work, and the world has not been kind to me during it. I want to bless every one of you out there, and I want you to know that I'm talking to Yahuwah for you, and I know you have troubles, and the great power of Yahuwah is protecting us all. Get in His Word and stay in His Word. You follow that Shabbat, and you do His appointed times, and you obey His Torah and His Besorah continually, forever, as a statute in your generations, from generation to generation. You teach your children, your children's children, and your children's children's children, if you're still alive, forever, as a statute in all your generations, in all your houses. Father Yahuwah, in the name of YAHUSHA, we pray that you guide and lead all of us, and you protect us from the wicked. Come and save us and rule this planet, this whole earth, with your rod of iron. Send the wicked away. Give us our inheritance of this great earth. Show us how to live in your laws, statutes, and commandments. Immediately give us understanding 20 times quickly. We ask in Yahusha's name that you bless us and you forgive us of our sins, and that you gather us together as one flock and drive us to the gates of your kingdom. Slowly, if it has to be, quickly, if you will. We love you, Yahuwah. We fear you because you're terrifying and your power is great. Thank you so much for making this video come to fruition. Thank you for all the people who come back to hear it, and for those who take notes and obey it. May the earth benefit from your glory very soon. Thank you, Yahusha, for your sacrifice. Thank you, Yahuwah, for coming here and being Yahusha. Thank you for everything and all the wisdom and the knowledge you've shared. Please keep it coming. And bless all of us and put confidence and comfort in our heart during these, the most trying times in the history of the earth. Thank you, Father. All right, you guys, that's it. There's your study. There's your Sefer book. I told you I'd do it. I did it. I hope you got a lot from it. And Yahuwah bless every one of you. Yahusha take care of every one of you. I want to wish you fortune and good hope and everything good. Safety, peace, comfort. Remember, it wasn't the bow and the spear that saved those people. It wasn't power and might, but it was the Ruach of Yahuwah. It was Yahuwah who fought for them. There was violence done to that Torah. Yahuwah doesn't want us doing it too. Yahuwah is our strength. He will take care of it. Okay, you guys, take care of yourselves.